Hello, everybody, and welcome to my review of Chapter 14 of The Mandalorian, also known as Episode 6 of Season 2. This episode is called The Tragedy, so you'd think that we would know going in that this maybe was not going to be the happiest episode, but holy crap. Last week when I was talking about the structure of the show, I said, well, maybe they need to shake things up and, change the story structure around. We've got another mission to go to another planet and it's starting to seem repetitive. I take it all back. If it saves what happened in this episode from happening, I take it back. Once again, there's not really much point in me doing a non-spoiler version of this review because this thing was packed with spoilers from pretty much the first frame. So this will be your one and only spoiler warning because the escalation is high in this episode, and there's a lot to go over. So if you don't want to know what happened in this episode of The Mandalorian, duck out now and come back later. So we opened up the episode with a very cute moment between Mando and baby Grogu, who we now know is his actual name. A fun little interaction between them, a little bittersweet as he realizes that he can't really train him the way that he needs to be trained, but they're throwing the knob back and forth. We get some cute baby Grogu stuff, and then they arrive on Tython, which is the planet that they were headed to last week, and that was the first kind of break from formula that we saw here because the show is conditioned us in a way to expect that there's going to be a stop off on the way to the planet to get to the Jedi Temple, etc. No, we're headed right there immediately. They find the Jedi Temple immediately. They put Grogu on a rock, and then he goes into a trance. The force field sky beam shoots up, and this is where I was wondering, okay, where are we going? And then Slave One flies over, and it is rare for me. I've seen a lot of these shows and I've seen a lot of Star Wars. It's rare for me to actually kind of sit up from my position on the couch watching something. When I saw Slave One fly over, even though we'd had that reveal of Boba Fett already earlier in the season, I was very surprised that they were bringing him into the action at this point. But it wasn't just Boba Fett. He brings a Ming-Na with him because we also see the return of Fennec from last season. This actually answers one of Season 1's enduring mysteries, which was who was the mysterious figure that walked up to Fennec at the end of that episode after she'd apparently been killed. There'd been speculation since they revealed that Boba Fett was alive, that it was Boba Fett. We get confirmation of that. He saved her life. She is now indebted and in service to him. And Boba Fett comes to Mando with a deal because he wants that armor back. Mando doesn't think it belongs to him, and we actually get a little bit of character development for Boba Fett because we find out that that armor belonged to his father, Jango Fett. That we knew, but we also find out that Jango Fett was a foundling, participated in the Mandalorian Civil War, was gifted that armor, and that it does by rights belong to Boba Fett. So it's not a breaking of the Mandalorian code to let him have his armor back. And not only does Boba Fett get his armor back, but now, in exchange for that armor being returned, he and Fennec are now in league with the Mandalorian to keep baby Grogu safe. It's now a rescue mission. We're assembling the dirty dozen here. We've got Fennec, we've got Boba Fett, we've got Cara Dune. Plus, it looks like they're all going to go out in search of Miggs Mayfield, Bill Burr's character from last season. This is quite a wild bunch of scum and villainy that is being assembled on the show. There are 2 episodes left, and of course, the big driving force is going to be the rescue mission for Grogu because the force field that was keeping Mando away drops. The Dark Troopers, which were teased in an episode a couple of weeks ago from Moff Gideon, descend and kidnap Grogu, take him to Moff Gideon's cruiser, and that cruiser zips off into hyperspace. So we now have Mando without a Grogu, and oh, by the way, without a ship, because a bolt comes from the sky and completely obliterates the Razor Crest. And I've got to say, I didn't know how attached I was to that spaceship until I saw it completely annihilated out of nowhere. I was a kid when it happened, so it's not exactly the same, but it felt a little bit like when I saw Back to the Future Part 3 for the first time, and you see the DeLorean get wrecked on the train tracks when it just is demolished when that train comes by and hits it. You've spent so many good times in that ship that just to see it blow up and go away, it's almost like losing a character in the show. It's its own kind of character. So R.I.P. Razor Crest. Mando is able to save the 2 most important items for the wreckage, which would be Grogu's favorite toy, the knob from the lever in the cockpit, and his Beskar spear. The biggest criticism that I've heard of Boba Fett is that he looks cool, but he never really did anything. And that's certainly true when you look at the original trilogy movies. He's got the cool armor, but he never really takes any big actions. He shows up in Empire, he shows up in Jedi, and he gets knocked into the Sarlacc pit. And that's pretty much it. The Mandalorian has done some wonderful career rehab on Boba Fett because the action sequence that we see, we finally understand why this guy Boba Fett was one of the most sought after and feared bounty hunters in the galaxy, because he wrecks shop against these stormtroopers. I mean, he was murking these stormtroopers. As we were watching the show, Mara said that Temuera Morrison has old man strength, and he most definitely does, and he imbued all of that old man strength onto Boba Fett. And by the way, I would not call him an old man to his face, because he would physically rip me in half. This is the Boba Fett that is the feared bounty hunter, and the first time that we're seeing this realized in live action. And this is what The Mandalorian seems to be doing this season, is taking all these bits and pieces of lore, characters like Ahsoka Tano that have been first realized in animated shows, and items like the Darksaber, which they're bringing in. This is obviously going to play a big part into the season moving forward. Things like Dark Troopers and Boba Fett, bringing them all into the show and realizing them fully in live action for the first time. And I think that's probably going to be the legacy of this season. This was the season where they brought in all these bits of lore and in a weird way united the Star Wars universe by bringing everything in, particularly when you think about the fact that Thrawn was name dropped at the end of, or in the middle of last week's episode. So it seems like they may perhaps be bringing Thrawn into the mix. This apparently is going to be the goal of The Mandalorian moving forward, which is to bring together all the corners of the Star Wars universe into one cohesive whole. And so far it's working for me. I know that I've had my criticisms here and there. If they had hit the same story beats again, where they're on their way to Tython and they get sidetracked and they have to go on another side mission in this episode, I think I might have started to fall off board a little bit. However, they are escalating this story. We have 2 episodes left, and we are in an Empire Strikes Back type situation. Maybe we'll get Ahsoka Tano back in there. Maybe we'll get Bo-Katan back in there. You have assembled so many awesome characters that it does seem like we are going to be building this super team up for the second part of this season. Now, there are only 2 episodes left, and I really doubt that we're going to get to the rise and fall of Moff Gideon in just these 2 episodes. We've really barely met Giancarlo Esposito, so I doubt that they're going to dispatch him in this season, but it does seem like we are on the verge of a major escalation, and it's got me asking and wondering, what is this show going to do next? What is the next episode going to bring? At a time where I thought The Mandalorian was getting predictable, they just threw us the most unpredictable episode yet. And that kind of wraps up this review of the episode because, like I said, it was 33 minutes, which I think is the shortest episode of the series so far. And honestly, if not much had happened, then I may have just said like, well, I'll do a combination review next week. But this was a massively consequential episode. This moved the story into so many ways, and now we have to wonder, what's going to happen to Grogu? Where is Moff Gideon taking him? What is he going to be the donor for? Why are they harvesting his blood? Is this going to tie into somehow a Emperor/Snoke thing when we talk about cloning and we talk about trying to harness the power of the Force? Is it going to bring in something different? If it does bring in the kind of cloning Emperor stuff, does that make The Rise of Skywalker any better? I don't think it does, but it can't make it much worse. There's a whole lot going here with The Mandalorian. We're going to start getting some answers, I think, next week. And even if we don't get any answers, I think we are going to see a pretty badass team of either Mandalorians by blood, Mandalorians by creed, or just warriors as they rip the galaxy apart looking for Moff Gideon. This is the most I've been excited for next week's Mandalorian in quite some time. What did you think of the episode? Did you like the action? Was it great to see Boba Fett finally get some kicking ass to do? Where do you think we're going from here? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, you can check me out not only here on YouTube, but on Patreon at patreon.com/Dan Murrell. We do all sorts of great stuff over there. Movie watch-alongs, commentaries, monthly movie club, everything that's happening happening all through this month leading up to the holiday season and into 2021. You can check out my podcast, All My Movies. That drops every week where I take a movie off the shelf and talk about it. We just covered National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. We will be covering another Christmas action classic next week. And I also put out a video, I guess at this point it'd be yesterday, about the huge developments with HBO Max and Warner Brothers and the complete obliteration of the theatrical window. HBO Max and Warner Brothers did to the theatrical exhibition industry what the Dark Troopers and Moff Gideon did to the Mandalorian this week, which is absolutely break their hearts. So watch that video to see what those developments were today, and there will be even more to track in the coming days of weeks. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. I kept my child, so at least this one is safe.